Hello, it's a great honor to be part of this webinar, and I thank you for asking me to take part in it. And I want to thank the IHRC for organizing this highly important discussion and debate on genocide in general and the application of genocide to the case of Palestine. I would like to focus on Gaza and as an historian try to find out when exactly did the discourse of genocide began to be used in the case of Gaza, and then try and assess its significance. Um, the evidence collected by both Israeli human rights organizations and international organization, um, and also some international media, although Israel barred international media from getting to the Gaza Strip since 2009. The evidence collected for the Israeli actions from 2006 until the end of January 2009 was enough to be perceived as something which is far worse than war crimes. Some refer to it as genocide. It is not often that the President of the United Nations General Assembly would accuse a member state of genocide. But when the Israeli army bombarded in 2006 and 2007 and 2008 the civilian population of Gaza in the name of the right of self-defense against what it deemed as terrorist attacks, Miguel de Escoto Brockman did not hesitate to describe these Israeli actions as genocide. As a former Roman Catholic priest and Nicaragua's foreign minister, his views carried quite considerable weight in Latin America. Needless to say, these remarks were promptly dismissed by Israel as anti-Semitism, which is the standard Israeli reaction to such accusations. Um, had his voice been a lonely one in the wilderness, it would have had little resonance, but he was joined by similar expression of outrage by senior politicians or other senior politicians, especially outside the Western corridors of power, who chose the term genocide as the only way to describe the tragedy visited by Israel on the people of Gaza. The Scotto Brockman's reaction came before the full-scale destruction of homes, schools, and hospitals in many parts of Gaza. A week later, the Turkish columnist and author Oktay Akbal described the Israeli actions as real genocide. The Israeli daily Haaretz reported on December the 29th, 2008, that government and opposition leaders across the globe, but mainly in Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America, referred to the atrocities even before they were fully transpired, even before they fully transpired, as genocide. There was strong criticism from the West as well, but these sources were more cautious in using the term genocide. Nonetheless, the G word, so to speak, frequently surfaced in the commentaries conveyed through alternative media, bloggers, and websites. Even before the Gaza operations in January 2009, and definitely before the Israeli operations in 2012, and particularly the brutal attack on Gaza in 2014, and before the United Nations declared Gaza to be uninhabitable because of the siege and the blockade, before all these very clear evidence of an incremental genocide, occasional references were made to Israeli armed forces committing acts of genocide. Let me read to you what the United Nations official Jan Egeland and the Swedish foreign minister at the time, Jan Eliasson, wrote in Le Figaro in 2009, in January 2009, after a particularly vicious Israeli attack on the Gaza Strip. Some 1.4 million people, mostly children, are piled up in one of the most densely populated regions of the world, with no freedom of movement and no place to run and no space to hide. End of quote. And the brave journalist John Pilger wrote at that time in the new statement, a genocide is engulfing the people of Gaza while silence engulfs its bystanders. Um, and in that same month, repeated Israeli actions against the children in Gaza prompted similar expressions of concern from all over the world. The January 2009 events were referred to as similar terms by pro-Western Arab media organs. I'm surprised even they could not ignore the fact that what they were witnessing was akin to genocidal acts, and therefore it's not surprising if you hear those things in 2009 or later on in Al Jazeera. But what was surprising that in the pro-American Arab satellite network, Arabia, based in Dubai, a similar discourse was employed. On December the 28th, 2008, when the massive Israeli killing had just begun, although already resulting in unprecedented number of dead children and women, the network reported that popular protests around the world against the Israeli actions was against what it defined as genocidal policies by Israel. The headline was, "World Stands United Against Genocide in Gaza." That's from Al Arabiya. It reported that, and I quote, "Protesters from Denmark, Turkey, Pakistan, Cyprus, Bahrain, Kuwait, Iran, Sudan, and even Israel all called for an end to what most demonstrators termed as genocide in Gaza." This was not the mainstream media's opinion in the West, nor was it voiced in such a manner by any members of, of the political elite in North America or Europe. But within the balance of power between hegemonic and counter-hegemonic voices, the latter included senior politicians from the rest of the world, the widest coalition of the political left and of human rights organizations in the West, coupled with some influential voices from within the Western media. The journalist John Pilger referred to the events in Gaza as genocide in the New Statesman again on January the 21st, 2009. In the aftermath of the 2009 assault on Gaza, more voices joined in. Participants in the main demonstrations in London on January the 19th, 2009 carried placards about the genocide in Gaza. Similar banners were raised in massive demonstration in Copenhagen. Elsewhere, the Malaysian foreign minister in April 2009 described the attack on Gaza as genocide. One can understand why the most important report on the 2009 attack, that by Judge Goldstone, refrained from such language. His report corroborated the evidence collected by those who described these policies as genocidal, but summed them up as war crimes that require further investigation. Goldstone's report also used the same language for the Hamas missile attack on Israel. This seems to be more lip service than a genuine point of his. The imbalance of the aggressor's power and the destruction of the victim's primitive missiles response deserved a very different language. Moreover, when one reads the thorough and brave report of Judge Goldstone, one should remember that the 1,500 Palestinians killed in 2009, thousands wounded, and tens of thousands who lost their homes do not tell the whole story. It is the decision to employ such fierce military force in a civilian space that should be discussed. This kind of firepower can only produce the kind of horrific destruction we witnessed since 2009 until today in Gaza. It was used for this purpose. The nature of the military operation also displayed an Israeli military wish to experiment with new weapons, all intended to kill civilians as part of what the former chief of the Israeli army, General Moshe Ya'alon, later Minister of Defense, said or termed as the need to brand in the Palestinian consciousness the fearsome might of the Israeli army. The question is, can we take this rare uh, expression or discourse on genocide that was quite dominant in 2009 and use it today in 2021? As we know, this discourse did not enter or did not penetrate the mainstream media, mainstream academia. Definitely is not referred to or is not employed by the political elite in the West. And yet we feel, of course, that like like other terms such as ethnic cleansing, colonization, genocide is a relevant term to Israeli policies, at least towards the Gaza Strip, if not towards other sections of the Palestinian people. One of the reasons I think that this readiness in 2009 was not repeated in the same magnitude in 2014 and was not even and did not reappear even after the United Nations in 2019 warned about the genocidal policies of Israel in Gaza and their impact on people's ability to survive. One of the main reasons that this was less dominant and less heard was the Israeli counterattack, if you want, by weaponizing anti-Semitism in order to silence any criticism on Israel and equating any attempt to describe Israeli policy as genocidal with Holocaust denial. This equation, of course, is baseless, is ridiculous, and really borders on silliness. And yet, the European community adopted this equation. The British government did, the Secretary of State for Higher Education in Britain did, as did important institutions and states in the United States of America. And this means that you are exposed to prosecution or any kind of other institutional harassment if you employ terms like genocide for describing Israeli policies. Even lesser terms such as ethnic cleansing or war crimes is not easy to employ in mainstream media, academia, and politics. However, what we can learn from 2009 is that the alternative media does not cave in to such a pressure, is not intimidated by the way that Israel weaponized anti-Semitism in order to silence critique on Israel. And we should continue with the work that we have done in universities, in media, and towards the general public, and include genocide in the necessary vocabulary and dictionary that we are employing for describing events in Palestine, either in the past or in the present. Language is very, very important here, and this kind of language will also eventually abolish terms such as the peace process that have nothing to do with the reality on the ground and the solution for that reality. We are talking, and we have been talking in the last 100 years of a struggle between an indigenous native people who wage an anti-colonialist struggle against a settler colonial project. This was true in 1882. It is true in 2029. The means used by the settler colonial movement include genocide, ethnic cleansing, and other inhuman methods to try and implement the basic objective of any settler colonial movement is to have a country without its indigenous people. This language will clarify for people why there is a problem in Palestine, and will also illuminate the way forward. And I think that we should really thank organizations like the one that host us today for not giving in to intimidation and pressure to avoid such discussion, and recently to claim that such discussions are similar to Holocaust denial. As someone who lost his family members in the Holocaust, I find this method as abusing the Holocaust memory rather than respecting it. And as someone who comes from such a family, I will not stand by when genocidal policies are carried out in my name against the people of Palestine. Thank you.